want to talk to us again about the silent sovereignty of God. The silent sovereignty of God. The waning verses of chapter 2 and the entire 15 verses in chapter 3, for those of us who read the Bible, we already know the story. But just pretend that you don't know the story. You don't know how it's going to turn out. These verses are, for all intents and purposes, a cliffhanger. I don't watch serial television much because I get so engrossed in a program, and if it's a series of programs that goes on and on, I don't want to do anything when that program is on. I don't want to talk, I don't want to eat, I just want to watch my program. And so I don't get into serial programs much because Reverend West, Pastor West over at Church Without Walls told me some years ago about Boardwalk Empire. And I started watching it. He told me how good it was and I need to catch up on the series. I was behind 6 or 7 shows and he told me I need to catch up to the series. And I started watching it about 7 o'clock one Saturday night. And when I came to myself, it was 4:30 Sunday morning. And I just took a shower and came to church after I cussed Ralph out for making me watch that show all night. And so I don't get into serial programs as much. Of course, I am watching Power Book 2 Ghost because I want to see how Tariq and Monet are going to make out with this drug deal they got going. But that's not the sermon. I just don't want to. I just want to say to you that this is a cliffhanger because something is brewing, something is in the air, something is stirring because the tension in the text, the cloudiness, the wrath, the anger, the anxiety, the momentum is building because Mordecai is just about had enough. Walk with me around the text. The virgins have gone in to King Ahasuerus. He has chosen Esther to be his queen. And all of the other maidens have gone back, over 1,400 of them have gone back to the second house, that they can no longer marry, they can no longer have children, they can no longer be involved in any relationship. They can come to the king's quarters only when he calls them by name. And Mordecai one day is walking by because, as is his custom, he is checking on Esther. He's raised her from a child. Her parents are dead, and Mordecai has taken responsibility for Esther. And now, even though Esther is the queen, Mordecai still wants to know if she's doing well. And so one day, sitting in the gate, sitting in the entrance to the kingdom, he overhears a plot to assassinate King Ahasuerus by the men, the 2 men who are up close to him, Bigthan and this other man whose name just left my mind that quick. They are getting ready to kill the king. Mordecai hears of it. He overhears. God allows him to overhear. He hears the plot and he calls Queen Esther and gives her what's about to happen. Esther gives the information to King Ahasuerus. The king has it checked out. It's the truth. They are plotting to kill him, and the king foils their assassination plot by having both of them hanged on the gallows. Mordecai has saved the king's life. Mordecai overhears this assassination plot. He gives the word to Esther. Esther gives it to the king. The king has it investigated. As it turns out, they were actually planning to kill His Majesty King Ahasuerus, he foils their plot, has both of them hanged on the gallows. Now you would think that after Mordecai risks his life, risks his position, to give this information to Queen Esther, to give it to King Ahasuerus, and he has these men killed, you would think that after Mordecai saves the king's life, that the king would be grateful. You would think that after the chance he took, after the risk he took, after all that he went through to get the assassination plot to the king, if anybody should have been appreciative, it should have been King Ahasuerus. People don't always appreciate what you do for them. People are not always grateful for what you do for them. You might as well put it in your mind right now, everybody is not going to say thank you. Everybody's not going to appreciate you. Everybody is not going to applaud you. If you're looking for that, you're going to be disappointed. Some people you have prayed for have turned their backs on you. Some people you have done a favor for, now they act like they don't even know you. Some people that you have been really, really kind to and gone out of your way to be helpful towards, those same people will walk by you like they don't even know your name. Don't lose your cool. Don't jump off a building because nobody's praising you. Don't get upset because they don't remember you. If, when you give the best of your service, telling the world that the Savior has come, be not dismayed if men don't believe you. He'll understand and say, well done. Look at the text. Mordecai should have been rewarded. But instead of giving Mordecai the reward, the king promotes Haman. Mordecai saved his life, but he gives the other man the promotion. Mordecai risks his life to save the king, and rather than getting a reward, he promotes the other man. I've heard stories of members in this church who have spent years on a job, trained the people who just got there, and those same people replace them. You have done well. You deserve the promotion. You deserve the raise. You did the work. You deserve the reward, and somebody else gets it. You should be the one celebrating, but you have to grit your teeth and celebrate somebody else. Somebody's in the office, you ought to have. Somebody has a salary, you ought to have. Somebody has the promotion, the praise, the accolades, you ought to have, because you are the one who made the risks. You are the one who's done the hard work. You are the one who has gone through the struggle. You are the one who's borne the burden, but now they have the spotlight. It takes a big man to celebrate somebody who has his space. It takes a tall woman to celebrate somebody who has the spotlight that you ought to have. Because when life turns on you, when others get what you should have got, the question is always in your throat if it doesn't come out of your mouth. God, why did you let that happen? It should have been me. I made the right choices. I did the right things. I should have been the one rewarded, and he elevates my sworn enemy. Haman is an Agagite who is a relation of the Amalekites, who are sworn enemies of the Jewish people. The Amalekites and the Jews are at enmity, just like Jews and Samaritans. And to rub salt in the wound, not only does he promote Haman, but he promotes his enemy, an Amalekite. Because remember, Mordecai has not revealed who he is. And so Haman is promoted, an Amalekite, a pagan, a heathen, over Mordecai, who has no business in Shushan in the first place. I wish I had somebody who read the text. Mordecai shouldn't even be in Susa, because he should have gone back when Cyrus took over Babylon. But because he stayed and kept his identity secret, King Ahasuerus elevates his enemy over him. Yes, sir. Never be ashamed of who you are, because you miss out on some blessings when you're hiding in the stuff. Listen to me, brothers and sisters. Don't let insecure people make you feel bad about your prowess and about your intelligence and about your being able to get things done. You can't stay married to nobody insecure and can't stand for you to shine and can't stand for you to be promoted. What kind of man don't want to see his wife go up? What kind of woman don't want to see her husband go up? Because when he goes up, both of y'all go up. But when you hide who you are, God will take both of your blessings. I'm a Christian everywhere I go. I don't care who knows it. I don't care who likes it. I don't care who don't want to sit with me or go to lunch with me or sit down and talk with me. I'm a child of God. And as God's child, I'm not ashamed of the gospel. Amen. Because it's the power of God under salvation. If you don't watch it, you will get sucked into this vortex of people making you feel bad because you go to church. And they won't want to be around you, and so you will change and bend your ways to try to be around them, because they say all you talk about is church. All you talk about is God. Reverend Washington just prayed about it. I'm not bragging, I'm testifying. God's been good to me. God has made a way for me. God has raised me up off my sick bed. God has put food on my table when I didn't know where it was coming from. God opened doors that were closed in my face, and you think I'm going to let you make me feel bad because I love God? I love the Lord. He heard my cry. Have I got a witness? Pitied every groan, long as I live while trouble rise. Yes, sir. I'm going to hasten to his throne. When church is open, I'm going to church. Somebody's preaching, I want to hear the gospel. Somebody's singing, I want to shout hallelujah, because God's been good to me, and I don't care who likes it or who does not like it. Glory to God. Yes. Stop letting people make you apologize for being blessed. They didn't waste their money on foolishness, and you've been sensible and intelligent with your money, and then they buy what they want and beg you for what they need. There's a simple answer for that. No. See how quiet y'all got in the back? I ain't making up no excuse. I'm not talking about let me pray about it or let me see if I got enough. I got more than you asked me for. But I'm not giving it to you, because you waste your money on foolish pursuits and then borrow my money and get mad not to pay me back. No. Somebody ought to help me preach here. This matter of hiding who you are and getting into stuff and wanting to be a part of the crowd. When God saves you, he marks you. He puts something in your face. He puts something in your conversation that even though you try to sit with them, somebody will know that you don't belong here. Have I got a witness here? You tried to fit in at a party and they look at you and tell you're a church person. I was listening to my old girlfriend Gladys Knight singing Midnight Train to Georgia. And you can tell she was raised in the church. Her voice just sounds like a church voice. I don't care nothing about Aretha Franklin trying to sing "You Make Me Feel Like a Natural Woman." She just sounds like she's singing a church song. Because when you belong to God, he does something to your voice. Somebody ought to help me preach here. People have called my house, telemarketers have called my house who I've never met before in my life. They're in New Jersey somewhere. And when I answer the phone and talk a minute, they say, "You're a preacher, aren't you?" I say, "How you know?" They say, "You sound like a preacher." That's something God puts in your voice. Something God puts in how you walk, how you live, how you act. And when you're ashamed of that, when you hide that, you miss out on blessings that could have come your way. Mordecai hides that he's a Jew. Haman is promoted. Haman receives the reward. And now there's a problem with recognition. Because King Ahasuerus has made an order that whenever Haman walks out publicly, everybody ought to bow. Whenever Haman comes out of the house, whenever he walks down the street, everybody needs to bow because he's Haman, second in command of the Persian Empire. And when he comes out, all the little flunkies who are following him and all the weak people who want favor from him, when Haman comes out, all of them bow. Except Mordecai. Now, I need you to get this. Mordecai has been hiding the fact that he's a Jew. He's been hiding the fact that he belongs to God. He even made Esther, who is now in the palace, hide her identity. He does not want anybody to know that he's a Jew and he belongs to the family of Abraham, Isaac, and Jacob. Until this bowing business. Haman comes out the house, everybody bows, except Mordecai. Because Mordecai determines there's some lines I'm not going to cross. There's just some things I'm not going to stand for. I wish I had somebody to help me here. And brothers and sisters, again, when you're a Christian, there's some lines you just can't cross. There's just some things you just not going to do. And Mordecai said, I was hiding the fact that I was a Jew because I'm up in the palace and I'm working for King Ahasuerus and I don't want him to know that I'm a Jew. But now when he started talking about this bowing situation, I shall have no other gods before my face. Have I got a witness here? He's in Susa, but he know who kept him. He's in the Persian Empire, but he know who brought him. And when you know who brought you and who kept you and who never left you and who made a way for you, there's some things you're not going to do. There's some relatives. There's some kinfolk of old Mordecai who was in Babylon. 3 of them, as a matter of fact, by the name of Shadrach, Meshach, and Abednego. They were there, and a golden image was set up in the plains of Dura. And the edict was, the letter said that everybody, when they hear the sound of music, need to bow and worship this golden image. The music started, the sackbut and the lyre, the flute and the harp, and everybody in the kingdom, the trumpets and the cornets sounded, and everybody in the kingdom bowed, everybody but Shadrach, Meshach, and Abednego. And they went to the king and said, "King, you made this rule that everybody ought to bow and worship this golden image. And these men that you put over us do not bow." The king said, "Bring them in." They brought Shadrach, Meshach, and Abednego, and the king said, "I've told you that at the sound of music, everybody will bow and worship the golden image. When you hear the sackbut and the lyre, the flute and the harp, the trumpets and the cornets, everybody bow. I'm going to give you one more chance to go out when you hear the music and bow and worship the golden image." They said, "King, we don't have to go out and think about it. We don't need no committee meeting about this. We don't have to caucus in a room over this situation. We've already decided that the God we serve is able, and he will deliver us out of your hand. But if not, we are still not going to bow." You know the rest of the story. They heated the furnace 7 times hotter than it was normally heated. So hot was it that the men who set it ablaze fell down dead from being incinerated. Shut the door, threw them in the midst of the burning fire with wool caps and blankets, with their wrists and their feet tied, threw them in the fire. The king sat on his throne, looked in, and said, "Didn't we throw 3 men bound in the fire?" They said, "Yes, we did, O king." He said, "Well, I see 4 men loose walking around in the fire." Somebody ought to help me preach here. And when they brought them out, the scripture said they didn't even smell like they had been burned. Because when you put your trust in God, God will not let your enemy get the upper hand. He will provide. Let me encourage somebody this morning. Find you a section in this big church of people who just look like they trust God. Do it now if you have to. Just get up and find you 2 or 3 people who look like God has brought them through some stuff. They don't care nothing about what they have on. They don't care if their makeup gets messed up. They don't care what you say about them on Facebook. They don't care how you talk about them after this service is over. God was with them in January. God brought them through a divorce. God brought them through a wreck that almost took their life. They've been sick 3 times last year, and here they are this morning giving God glory and praise. Find those people, because those people know that when you come out the furnace, you don't even smell burn. Won't he do it? Won't he do it? Won't he make a way? Won't he provide for you? Yeah. I'm trying to quit here. But when you're insecure, watch this. Everybody in Shushan is bowing but Mordecai. Haman is so insecure that 120 cities bow when he walks by. One man refuses to bow, and he can't sleep at night. You better get away from them insecure people. You better get away from folk who have no identity of their own. Get away from folk who got to stop when they buy a new car to make sure somebody sees it. I wish I had somebody to help me here. Be careful of people who are always bragging on what they have and what they know and what they can do. Because if you got to do all of that, chances are you ain't all of that. All these people are bowing, and you can't stand that one person is not bowing. And in his insecurity, he goes to one who's more insecure than him. And that's King Ahasuerus. The reward has been given to Haman. But Haman gets no recognition. But I want to close by telling you God is not only sovereign over who gets rewards. God is not only sovereign over who gets recognition. God is sovereign over rulers who take your reward and your recognition. It's right here in the text. Haman gets Ahasuerus to sign a decree because he's so mad at that damn Mordecai. Everybody's bowing but him. He's so mad with Mordecai that he has the king to write a decree to kill not just Mordecai, but all the Jews. And brothers and sisters, the reason I said that this is a cliffhanger is because I know how it's going to end up. I need 2 or 3 Bible readers who knows how it's going to end up. The trap Haman set for Mordecai the ditch Haman dug for Mordecai, the gallows that Haman hung for Mordecai, he dies on it himself because God will make your enemy your footstool. I'm through, but fret not yourself because of evildoers. I wish I had some Bible reader. Neither be envious against the workers of iniquity. They shall soon be cut off like grass, and they shall wither like the green herb. Have I got a witness here? The Lord is my light and my salvation. Whom shall I fear? The Lord is the strength of my life. Of whom shall I be afraid? When the wicked, even my enemies and my foes, came upon me to eat up my flesh, just before they got to me, the Lord tripped them. They stumbled and they fell. Though a host should encamp against me, in this will I be confident. One thing have I desired of the Lord, and that will I seek after, that I may dwell in the house of the Lord all the days of my life. Here it is. For in the time of trouble, I said in the time of trouble, he shall hide me. You're going to help me close this, won't you? When it looks like my enemy is closing in on me, God will provide a door for me to escape. When it looks like all hell is about to break loose, God will make a way out of nowhere. You know the story. Joseph's brothers sold him into slavery. Have I got one or two witnesses here? They hated him because his daddy made him a coat of many colors. They hated him so much that they sold him to an Ishmaelite caravan. He winds up in Egypt. But I want you to get this, brothers and sisters. Although Joseph is punished and not praised, God still preserves him. You're going to help me come back to that, won't you? He's punished instead of being praised, but in the meantime, God is preserving him. They sell him into Egyptian slavery. He winds up in Potiphar's house. Potiphar notices that God's hand is on young Joseph. He makes him superintendent over everything in his house except Mrs. Potiphar. But Potiphar's wife had sexual designs on young Joseph. And Joseph said, I cannot disobey my master, and I cannot shame my God. So he ran from Mrs. Potiphar's seduction. She lied on him and had him thrown in the dungeon. She had his garment in her hand because he ran from her seduction. He wound up in the dungeon because Potiphar had to honor his own wife. He puts Joseph in a dungeon. He's punished when he should have been praised, but God is still preserving him, because while he's in the dungeon, he meets a butler and a baker. They don't know that Joseph is a dreamer, so one day both of them start dreaming. You're going to help me close this, won't you? And they told Joseph about their dream. Joseph told the baker, by this time tomorrow you will hang on the gallows. But he told the butler, you're going to get your position back. And when you get back in your position, remember me. 2 years have passed by and Joseph is still in the dungeon. But just because you're punished instead of being praised does not mean God does not preserve. Blessed is the man that walks not in the counsel of the ungodly. I wish I had a Bible reader. Nor standeth in the way of sinners, nor sits in the seat of the scornful. But his delight is in the law of the Lord. And in that law, come on, you can help me say it, doth he meditate both day and night. And he shall be like a tree planted by the rivers of water that brings forth fruit in his season. His leaf also shall not wither, and whatsoever he doeth shall prosper. But the ungodly are not so. They are like the chaff that the wind driveth away. Therefore the ungodly shall not stand in the judgment, nor sinners in the congregation of the righteous. For the Lord knows the way of the righteous, but the way of the ungodly shall perish. Joseph was punished when he should have been praised, but he's still preserved, because one day Pharaoh started dreaming. You're going to help me close this, won't you? And nobody could interpret Pharaoh's dream. And a butler remembered that there was a boy down in the dungeon who was able to interpret dreams. Pharaoh brought him up and told him what his dream was. He said, you're going to have 7 fat years and 7 lean years, 7 years of famine and 7 years of plenty. And just like Joseph said, everything came to pass. Pharaoh made him second chariot, prime minister of all of Egypt. But at the same time, there was a famine going on down in Goshen, so that the brothers who sold him would have to come to Egypt to buy some grain. They did not know that the brother that they punished, that they should have been praising, God had already preserved. Because when they got down to Egypt to buy some grain, they had to reckon with their past. When they got down to Egypt, they had to reckon with the man that they sold into slavery. You're going to help me close this, won't you? But while men are plotting God has a plan while people are plotting against you. God has a plan for you while folk are trying to undermine you. God has a plan for you. Because if his brothers had not hated him, they never would have sold him into slavery. If they never sold him into slavery, he never would have wound up in Egypt. If he never wound up in Egypt, he never would have wound up in Potiphar's house. If he never wound up in Potiphar's house, Potiphar's wife never would have tried to seduce him. If Potiphar's wife had never tried to seduce him, he never would have ran from the seduction. If he had never ran from the seduction, she never would have lied on him. If she had never lied on him, he never would have wound up in the dungeon. If he had never wound up in the dungeon, he never would have met a butler and a baker. If he never met a butler and a baker, they never would have started dreaming. If they had never started dreaming, he never would have wound up in Pharaoh's house. If he never wound up in Pharaoh's house, he never would have interpreted Pharaoh's dream. If he had never interpreted Pharaoh's dream, there never would have been a famine in Goshen. If there had never been a famine in Goshen, his brothers never would have had to come to Egypt to buy some grain. If his brothers had never come to Egypt to buy some grain, he never would have had a chance to tell them, you meant this for evil. Yeah, but God. And next time you see your enemy, next time you see a traitor, next time you run into somebody who lied on you, next time you see somebody who tried to stop you, tell them you meant this. You meant this for evil. But God, but God, but God, won't he pick you up? Won't he turn you around? Tell him, thank you, thank you. Why don't you tell your neighbor, but God, I could have been dead. But God, I should have been dead. But God, I could have lost my mind. But God, I could have been in an insane asylum. But God, I need one or two witnesses. I know it's time to go, but I need somebody here who got a but God testimony. I need 2 or 3 people here who got a but God testimony. I could have been outdoors, but God. I could have gotten killed last year, but God. I could have got COVID last year, but God. I did get COVID last year, but God. I had cancer, but God. I could have had a heart attack, but God. Yes. Say yes. 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 I know he's all right. Yeah. Can't nobody do me like Jesus. He died. Didn't he die? But early Sunday morning, he got up to give me a but God testimony. I know he's all right.
Lord. Thank you, 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 Lord.
While your enemy is planning your demise, God is opening a way for you to escape. And not only will God help you escape, but he'll help you land on your feet. Because when they thought it was the end of you, God made you prettier. God made you taller. God made you healthier. Because when God does it, and you know nobody could have done that but God, he put something in your voice. He put something in how you walk. That every time somebody sees you who tried to cut you down, you got to scratch their head and say, I thought that heifer was finished by now. But look where the Lord has brought you from. And look what the Lord has brought you through. Yea, though I walk, not in the valley of the shadow of death, but through the valley of the shadow of death, I fear no evil, for God is with me. Your rod and your staff, they comfort me. You prepare a table before me in the presence of my enemies. You anoint my head with oil so that my cup is running over. Surely, surely, goodness and mercy is following me all the days of my life. And when it's all over, I will dwell